Hello. Welcome back to the East Moriches Podcast with Kags and Kyle, where we discuss kids, technology, and growing up in today's world. I'm Michelle Cagliano, aka Kags.
And I'm Kyle Gordon, aka Kyle. And welcome back. Welcome to our second episode. We're going to continue discussing the New York Times bestseller, The Anxious Generation: How the Great Rewiring of Childhood is Causing an Epidemic of Mental Illness by Jonathan Haidt.
Yeah. So we've enjoyed doing our first podcast, and we're excited to delve deeper into the book. Before we begin, I have a question for you. And I know you don't know what this question is.
I don't know.
But
we share all our notes, but I don't know this question yet.
Do you have nomophobia? Do you think you have nomophobia?
Can you use the word in a sentence?
So many teens today have nomophobia when their battery gets to 50%.
Is that the fear of your phone dying?
Yes.
Is that a real thing?
It's a real thing.
In the Webster's dictionary?
It possibly, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
I don't. Although when it does get to 20%,
that's where you panic.
That's where I panic. Or I'm very careful about my phone use at 20%.
So it makes me wonder, like, where does the panic come from for teenagers, right? Because for us, we're parents, right? So we're like, oh no, if our battery dies, like, how are the kids
I can't get in communication with someone.
But for them, what do you think it is?
I will not survive. I won't make it out alive if my phone is dead.
Like what?
That's what it is.
They're not thinking I need to get in touch with my parents, because they don't even answer the phone when I call.
It's the fear of I'm sitting here with nothing to do and no phone to scroll.
Social anxiety, right? Like, what do I do if somebody talks to me? I can't just stare at my phone and pretend that, right?
Yeah. So in conclusion, no, I don't have, what is it, nomophobia?
Nomophobia.
All right. I'm going to have to use that.
Yeah.
All right. So before we dive in, we have a couple of shout outs because we've gotten some great feedback from our first episode. The first is Mrs. Rountos, Muriel Rountos. She's a teacher at our middle school, and she runs our game club. She sends us a very, very nice email complimenting us. But in running our game club, one of the things we talk about is if we want kids to spend less time on screens and more time face-to-face, we have to, yes, free play, right, or less supervised play, but give them opportunities to do things face-to-face.
And teach them how to take turns. And
yeah, what better way to learn to take turns and social interaction and problem solving with other people than playing a board game. So thank you, Mrs. Rountos. A second one is East Moriches alumni Jack Bielski, who we got a nice shout out from. Yeah. That Jack doesn't know that we heard from him, but his mother, who is a teacher here, let us know. And Jack, we want you to know that your mom said, "Get off your phone." And lastly,
such a paradox, right? Because here we are saying, "Get off your phones, get off social media," but
unless you're listening,
we also want them to listen to our podcast.
Unless you're listening, right? And lastly, Grammy, which is my grandmother, who sent me a very nice text that she listened to it and is sharing with friends and family.
Aw, that's so sweet. So I got a lot of positive feedback as well, and just people saying, like, they're trying to have these open conversations with their kids, and sometimes it is too late to not give it, but it's not too late to change habits, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think that was all I had to say about that.
So. Yeah. So leave a comment, right? Send us an email. You might get a shout out.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. There were a few good comments too on the website, which is great. So last episode, right, we discussed the 4 foundational harms. We talked about what kids need to be positive adults and grow up with 4 new norms, what children need in childhood: free play, social learning, attunement, agency, and
I think the challenge we said at the end, which was kind of like our, after listening to the podcast, what do I do next? Discussion, conversations to have. We said, what can we do to give kids more opportunities for independence, free play, and responsibility in the real world? Have you thought about this? Have you put it into practice or seen some examples of this, or even had people reach out about, giving kids opportunities for independence, free play?
So as I walk to my classroom every morning, there's always clubs and stuff going on in the morning. And Ms. Walt has an amazing game club that she hosts, and it's amazing, because I hear her explaining the rules of, like, Guess Who, and like all these games that we used to play when I was little and my kids were little, and the kids never heard of them. They don't even know how to play them. They don't know how to take turns. They don't know how to read the rules and figure out how to play, and she's there if there are disagreements, but I don't hear her stepping in, right?
Mm-hmm.
She kind of steps back and lets them figure it out, and
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Yeah.
Fosters that independence.
Yeah, one of the things that came to mind is I just finished a basketball season just ended. We were coaching, and me and Mr. Balzano coached the two basketball teams. And at practice, a lot of times we will give them a lot of time to play 1-on-1 or 2-on-2, 3-on-3, which the boys love. That's their favorite time.
Mm-hmm.
And have
it more competitive. Is that
it's more competitive. It's not a drill. That's what they want to do. They want to play with their friends.
Mm-hmm.
But a couple of times, kids arguing, and what do? They come to the adults. Yep. They tell us what happens.
Solve our problem.
And we have to say, you can figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
You guys, it's your game. You figure it out.
Yeah.
And in like 30 seconds, they do. Yeah. It's not that they're incapable, but
right.
I think a lot of them might be used to, well, there's a disagreement. The adult's going to step in.
Mm-hmm. Tell us what to do.
Mm-hmm. But in a lot of cases, especially they're, 12, 13 years old, they can figure that out.
Yeah.
And that's such an important skill to say, we have a disagreement. One of us is going to have to give in a little bit.
Yeah.
To compromise so that we can keep playing the game.
Yeah.
And they do. And they figured it out.
Yeah, when we come in from recess, I know we discussed this last time a little bit, but the kids, there's always an issue, right?
Always.
So whatever. So it was after recess, and we were getting ready to start the next lesson. And we have rules in our classroom, and I do have like some flexible seating options. So 2 kids get to the same seat at the same time, right? So what do? So we've gone over what to do. We've done a list, but for some reason this time it was really, they were both insistent that they got there at the same time. So, the other kids, they're talking about it. Well, what do you think? And I just kind of step back and let them talk. And they're looking at me like, aren't you going to tell us?
Yeah, aren't you going to tell us who's right and who's wrong?
Who's right? Who's going to sit in this chair? And, somebody, and it's always rock, paper, scissors handles everything.
Classic.
Right? So that was the end result. But it's just funny just watching them like they wait for you to say something.
Yeah.
When you don't, they're kind of like, all right, we're going to keep talking about it then. And they figured it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's great.
That is good.
Yeah.
So moving on, first topic for today, chapter 3 of The Anxious Generation. Jonathan Haidt explores the idea of anti-fragility, which we'll get to, and the difference between children being in discover mode versus defend mode. So we're going to get into that a little bit. Michelle, what is discover mode?
So, discover mode is basically what you would think it is, right? You want the kids to be out in the environment, outside, playing, discovering, looking around, being playful, exploratory, right? You want their nervous systems to kind of take a break, right? Because when you're on your phone constantly, you're constantly like, checking notifications, doing this, doing that. Your nervous system goes haywire, right? So take a break, let your brain rest, right?
Yeah, be curious.
Yeah.
Right? Think of it, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. We want them asking questions, taking healthy risks, right? Figuring things out on their own.
Mm-hmm. And comparing that to defend mode, which is more of the, fight or flight, right? Your sympathetic nervous system. So this idea of you're in protection mode, right? Like I don't want to be hurt, so I'm not going to take a risk right now. I'm going to protect myself. So being fearful or vigilant or self-protective, maybe being avoidant, which has its use, obviously. Like our bodies have developed that way for a reason, to be able to flee danger, right? There's a danger present, my body switches to defend mode, and I get out of trouble. But that shouldn't be default mode.
Right.
It serves a purpose, but it shouldn't be. So can you think of examples that we might see, could be at school, could be at home, of kids in discover mode where it's like clearly, oh yeah, I can see that, or defend mode, scared of taking risks, not wanting to put themselves out there, not wanting to try something new? Anything come to mind?
So something I was thinking about last year, the year before, I was teaching a unit on the Oregon Trail.
Okay.
And, westward expansion and all that. And it could be kind of dry, unrelatable to the kids, but we're learning about all these landmarks, and they actually came up with the idea, like, let's make something around the classroom that like shows the Oregon Trail. And I loved it. I'm like, let's do it, So we were looking around the classroom. We found like, all my brain bins, like, and they really made a whole, we looked up the map, and they each took a landmark they created out of Legos, out of, anything we had around the classroom. And it was so amazing. And I recorded it, and we looked at it. And then we all walked on the Oregon Trail and made our way. It was really, really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So
you could
just say,
did they fail some of them, and wasn't how they exactly wanted it? Yeah. But they had fun and they learned, and that was what was important.
That's very cool. That's very cool.
Yeah.
One of the things I would say, even going back to defend mode, which again, I hesitate to say this is like totally wrong, but we always do a trip to Frost Valley upstate, the YMCA in Frost Valley, and there's high ropes courses, there's a zip line, there's a rock wall, there are all these different elements, ropes courses that they do. And there's plenty of kids that are always, I want to be first in line, right? To try something new or to even challenge themselves. But for a lot of kids, their initial reaction, some of them change, but their initial reaction, nope, I'm going to sit this one out. I'm going to sit this one out. Which again, don't do something you're not comfortable with, but to go on a trip like that where you're away from your parents, the point is you're doing something new.
Right.
And the default is no, you know. Now, on the flip side, some of the cool things is by maybe the second, third day of this trip, watching their friends do it and watching some kids do and conquer their fears. A lot of kids do decide, all right, I'm going to do this one. I'm going to do that. Yeah.
That they eventually try.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, part of that is being a kid and growing up of knowing like, oh, this looks scary. It does look scary, right?
Yeah.
You're 15, 20 feet in the air. Yeah, you're in a harness, but it doesn't feel like you're safe.
Yeah,
you know?
I've done things like that. It's very scary.
Yeah, but that's one of those things where it's like, oh, I'm going to do a challenge, right? That's like you said, like a calculated risk, taking a healthy risk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm 20 feet in the air, but I'm in a harness. If I fall, I'm okay.
Right.
But it still feels...
It's still scary.
Scary.
Right.
Yeah.
And just really quickly, talking about defend mode, I think about like the shame of, or, you know, the kids getting made fun of. Like if you post something, right?
Oh,
so
yes.
even my kids, like if I'll post something and I'm friends with somebody they're friends with or that might see it, Mom, why'd you post that picture? You know, I look horrible, or, you know, look at my smile, look at my face, you know, and they're getting made fun of for a picture I posted. And, you know, it's just that shame and I don't know, makes them in defend mode. Like, always worrying, you know, somebody going to post a picture of me that's not good or that I don't like, you know?
Yeah, it causes that, like, the fear. And I even think, too, it is funny because when Instagram first came out, when I first downloaded Instagram, it's like you downloaded Instagram to, like, take pictures and post things.
And
now kids don't really post anything.
They don't,
You know, especially of themselves.
Because they're afraid to get made fun of.
Yeah. So the core idea there, right, is that children, in order to develop properly, need long periods in discover mode, right? We want them short periods in defend mode when it's appropriate, when there is a danger, but mostly in discover mode because he says children are anti-fragile. So Michelle, have you ever heard of the Biosphere 2 experiment?
Well, I did read about it in the book, but I'd like
Before
you to
then,
explain
did you
it.
hear
No,
it?
I did not hear about it.
So in short, in the 1980s, there was an attempt by scientists to create a completely closed ecosystem. And the idea was, can we do it here on Earth so that if we go to space, if we go to Mars, we can create the same thing there, right? So everything is inside this bubble that they did. Everything is, you know, everything's controlled and everything is produced itself there. You don't need any outside help. So they started it, and there were many failures, but one of the biggest failures was that trees would grow pretty quickly without any resistance of rain or heat, or you get the perfect amount. But they realized they would get to a size where they would just fall over. And the trees actually, because they didn't have the wind, because they didn't have periods of maybe too much rain and then not enough rain, they had no struggle, so they weren't strong enough to withstand their own weight.
That's interesting.
Which is a very, very interesting parallel. When you think about kids who sometimes we treat them as fragile, right? Something that's fragile is it can break easily. You drop it, it's going to break. Then you say something that's resilient, which something it's not going to break when you drop it. But he doesn't say kids are resilient. He says they're anti-fragile, meaning not only are they resilient, but they actually need challenges.
They do.
They need to have hardships. They need to have failures in order to grow.
Absolutely. I mean, think about us. Like, you know, when you fail, you make a mistake, you don't make that same mistake again, right?
It's the best way to learn.
Yeah.
Well, it's not the best way. The best way to learn, I tell kids, is watch somebody else's mistakes and failures and learn from that. But the best lessons you learn yourself, right, from your own failures.
Yeah. And think about like exposure versus avoidance, right? So if kids are constantly avoiding what they have to do for fear of failure, they'll never succeed.
Yeah. And I think he talks about in the book, the kids that don't have fear are the kids who have climbed the tree and fallen out.
Right.
Like those are the kids who are continually climbing the tree. You would think the kids who have gotten hurt are afraid to do it, but it's really the opposite.
It's the opposite.
It's the opposite. So
you can't
don't
shield
be afraid.
Our kids forever. Right?
That's right. That's right. Encourage your kids to take some risks. So 2 main factors that cause kids to get stuck in defend mode are what the author calls safetyism, as well as smartphones. So I'm going to read this quote from the book. It says, "We use the term safetyism to refer to a culture or a belief system in which safety has become a sacred value, and the idea that safety trumps everything else, no matter how unlikely or trivial the potential danger." So it's not just fearful parenting. It's saying you're not properly weighing the risks. You're saying physical safety is the highest value. So you're not willing to make a bargain of, I'm going to be a little bit of physical danger, healthy danger, obviously,
like letting your child go to the park.
Yeah,
right?
appropriate, because what's the return? Right? Competence, confidence, ability to conquer challenges. Right? Where if you're always insulated from any physical danger or harm, you're not going to have the experiences you need.
Absolutely. So let me ask you a question. So you have a new baby, right? And thinking about the world as it is today, and the horrible things we see on the news and everything else, and thinking about safetyism, how do you picture yourself when your son is old enough to want to ride his bike around the block, go to the park, go to the store, do things alone?
It is funny that, like, in theory,
we say this, but like it's hard.
Oh yeah, you read the book.
Yeah.
As a person who does not have any kids, and like, yes, and then you have a child, and you're like, no. Okay, so now I see why people don't. It's not so easy to do this.
Easy.
Yes, but I think it is constantly reminding yourself of, well, what's the end goal? Like, yes, physical safety. You always want your kid to be safe, but when they're 18, what do I want, and what do I have to do when they're 5, or when they're 8, or when they're 10 or 12? That's going to get them to that point. And sometimes it is saying, like, all right, I'm going to have to let them out of my sight. To ride around the block, to go to ride their bikes with friends, to go to 7-Eleven to get a Slurpee, right, down the block, things like that, where it's like, but it is hard. It's one of those things where now, as a parent thinking about my son in a few years, it's like, oh, okay, I get it. But I do get the fear.
You do, right? But then you also think about the flip side, like, well, what's the alternative? That they're on their phones, like seeing all this data and realizing how really dangerous it is for them to be on their phones. Who knows what they're watching? Who knows what they're doing?
Yeah. Is it any safer for them to be inside on a device all day long?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So having that knowledge is super important. And that brings us to smartphones, right? So we obviously know that the dangers of smartphones, besides inappropriate content, right, is that they're experience blockers, right? So instead of being outside, they're alone in their room, or they're playing, with their friends on a video game. Everyone's in separate houses. It's blocking them from real world experiences and challenges and struggling and problem solving, all the things that they need to be healthy adults.
Yeah, it's not just what are you doing on your phone, on your tablet, what video game are you playing. It's, you could be doing something that's totally benign, totally harmless, but what are you robbing yourself of experiencing with other people face to face or in the real world?
Yeah. This reminded me of a reel that I saw, actually, that was very powerful. So it was a little girl and her mom, and they're at the mall, right? And they're going down the escalator. And this random guy was like, "Oh, good job at your gymnastics thing, Jane." I don't even know what the girl's name was. And the mom's like, "What?" And then they go somewhere else. And another random stranger was like, "Oh, did you win your basketball game?" So the little girl, and they're just going about their day. And all these random people know everything about their lives, right? So it was like, yeah, you do, want to post, and I post things too. But like, at what expense? Sometimes having things private and not having everybody see everything is important too, right?
That is interesting. Yeah. So the main point there, children are overprotected in the real world and underprotected online. Yeah. And it's a problem, or this can be a problem, because it does set kids up for digital addiction. If you're telling them that everything outside is dangerous, don't go outside, they have no other option. Right. And it's that balance of, like we said a minute ago, I'm not going to sway all the way to one side. I'm not going to totally say, neglect my child, never talk to them, go away, and I don't want to see you ever. Yeah. But you're also not saying don't ever leave the house. Yeah. It's that balance of that slow buildup of confidence. Right. That gradual release. Yep. Yeah. Absolutely.
So Nicholas Kardaras, Dr. Nicholas Kardaras, he's an author of Glow Kids. I don't know you've heard about that book, but he actually came to our school and did a really awesome presentation. And I was reading an article that he wrote in the New York Post, and it was basically saying that the brain's reaction to video games and social media is the same as cocaine, right? So they did all these brain scans and all that. It's the same. It's the same as an actual drug.
Yeah, and I've heard the same thing about like slot machines.
Yeah.
And even the way video games are made, the way that the apps on the phones are made, it's the same.
Yeah,
they're tapping into the same things that get you addicted to gambling, get you addicted to drugs. It's that same dopamine.
Crazy.
The dopamine hit.
All right, so in wrapping up, I think our time is up already. That's crazy.
I think it is. Oh, you were setting me up, and I missed the cue. I'm supposed to say the first one.
The 3 takeaways?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
That's right. We're just hanging out here. Yeah. So the 3 key takeaways, right? Kind of in sum. So humans have 2 default modes: discover mode and defend mode. And children, in order to develop properly, need long periods of time in discover mode to develop competence and confidence.
Yeah. And children are anti-fragile, right? They need a wide range of challenges and experiences to get stronger, like the trees.
And then lastly, safetyism, which is the belief that safety is the highest value, and smartphones that act as experience blockers prevent kids from having those long periods in discover mode that they need.
So here's a little quote for you to think about. A childhood spent mostly in defend mode produces adults who fear the world. A childhood rich in discover mode produces adults who can handle it. That's what we want our kids to say.
There we go.
It. Yep.
Clip that. So our challenge this episode that we're going to give to you to discuss, to talk about, is how do we keep kids in discover mode? And here's some suggestions. Delay smartphone and social media access. If you're already giving your kids access, then maybe have a little more limits on it.
Yeah. Encourage unsupervised or lightly supervised play.
Like even in a school game club, right? Where it's, of course, you need an adult there, but the kids are running it themselves. Normalize mistakes and discomfort. If a kid has a problem, if a kid is bored, if you have a student, or even if you have a child that is having a hard time, like you don't have to solve it for
let them sit in
especially something small.
Yeah, it's okay. That discomfort actually makes them stronger. Teach them coping skills instead of avoidance, which is important.
And then lastly, reduce moral panic around everyday risks.
Yeah, I do
risks
see
are
that
normal,
too.
and they are part
Making
of life.
Making mistakes is okay.
So as you think about that, as you talk about that with your friends and family, send us an email, leave us a comment, and maybe you'll get a shout out next time. Thank you, Chris, our producer, for doing all the things that you do to make this possible.
Yep, Mr. Peter Burns, our audio visual
MacGyver of all things
everything.
Our superintendent, Dean Middleman, for all your support and help.
And Emily Ike, we love you. Thank you so much. We couldn't do this without you.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Bye.